Alrighty. Welcome, folks. You are tuned in to another Woomoo transmission. This one is going to be, I like to think they are all practical because knowledge is practical if you know how to use it. But for the layman out there, this is going to be a little more useful in your day-to-day goings aboutings. How to stop tripping out. A practical guide. What do I mean by tripping out? Alright. Well, how do I know if I'm tripping? A few archetypal sort of examples here to provide you. And you may be able to figure out whether you are tripping out. Okay? So we have the classic, the slave to time. This is the one who is, oh man, I haven't been able to catch up, I'm so busy. Oh yeah, no, we've got this coming up and we've got this. This is the one who's always got something on that doesn't want to not have something on because they're afraid of their own thoughts. I mean, let's be real here. The people that always have something planned and are always trying to organize and control their future, that is a subconscious projection of them being out of control in their internal state. But anyway, that is one of these archetypal trippers. The addict. If there's one subject on this goddamn globe that I am that I'm worthy of speaking on in an expert manner, it's addiction. I've been there, I've done that, and we have spoken about this, and I won't go into all of that. But an addict, and it doesn't matter whether it's drugs, substance, gambling, sex, like social media, whatever. I mean, it's just the idea of addiction, right? That is someone tripping out. When it is using you, you are not using it, you're tripping out, man. All right? Insecurity. This is the ultimate trip out. You can be the most beautiful, most wealthy, most quote-unquote successful person in existence and still yet be the most insecure person in existence. How do you get rid of that? Well, this is the guide for you. You know, and what does that actually mean? If you're one of those person who is constantly looking at themselves or has to quickly check in their selfie on their phone or in the mirror, you know, you're worried about how others perceive you. I mean, we've gone down the whole social media thing, but it's like, okay, what is the intention behind posting this selfie? Are you doing it because, oh, I really just feel like posting the selfie? Or are you doing it because, oh, I need people to love me. I need external validation to tell me that I love me. You know, it's, yeah. Selfless versus selfish. Now, this is a funny one. I've spoken at length about this with my parents' mates. So, selfish, right? We get told that being selfish is bad. Well, selfish is self-love, right? And so, when you are the best version of yourself, you, by nature, then have more utility, more to offer, more value to offer others and help those around you. Whereas when you're in the selfless state, that is, by definition, putting others above yourself. And in doing so, that is a subconscious projection for the need for external validation. Okay? So, and this is one of the most profound things that Sarah, if you're listening, huge props, my psychologist a few years ago gave me, is what do you value most in life? I mean, she asked me this question. I was sitting there going, I don't know, like, family, friends, career. And she was like, it's drugs. You value drugs most in your life. And I was like, fully, eh? And she was right. I did. But this is true. And no longer now. And then she's like, you need to put yourself first. You need to be the number one thing, right? You value yourself first. Remember, what is this? And I'll get into this on the next slide. What is this? This is a direct reflection of your internal state. So if you are in a state of self-love, you will receive love as a reflection back from that. But we'll get into that a bit later. And a little bit more on this idea of selfless versus selfish. Just a funny insight in regards to polarity, the polarity that we live in. I did a little TikTok on the Promethean Greek mythology the other day. But this idea of thought and thinking are the same thing on opposite ends of the spectrum. I thought this was a really interesting insight. So, episode 2 or whatever, we're a quantum biological radio transponder and receiver. So our thoughts are received, and thinking is projected. So they are polar opposites of the same thing. I thought that was just an interesting little insight. Anyway, I digress. Now, what is this? Reminder, guys, we are universe experiencing man, not man experiencing universe. Your subjective experience of reality is a direct reflection of your internal state. So what that means is you're experiencing a mirror of your mind, right? People forget, understand the concept of the bicameral mind. And I've touched this on previous episodes. But the bicameral mind, the left and right hemisphere, your intuition and intellect, which is what allows us our free will, which allows us discernment, our nous. These are two consciousnesses existing within us, speaking to each other. But people write it off as just one. We have two of the same voice, it's our voice that we listen to in our own mind, speaking to each other. People don't have to understand there are two of them. One maybe has better interests at heart than the other. The left, the ego, versus the right, the intuition, right? So understand what you are experiencing, what you are listening to right now, is a direct reflection of your internal state, your vibration. Okay? You are the director, producer, and main player, the meat suit, the avatar, in your own game. Remember, you are not the meat suit. You are not the flesh and bones, which is weird to think about. You are the conscious spirit that resides in the flesh and bones. Okay? So, people that get so caught up, if you're that dude that's just like checking out at the gym or like how my abs are, you're not this, you're the personality, not the person, right? You're the personality. You are the archetypal consciousness. You are the unique expression of self. And I have to remind you guys, why are we even here? We are here to be the most authentic expression of self. The idea is to raise perceptual awareness, or to raise consciousness through perceptual awareness, through experience, through unique perspectives. If we are a mirror of the whole, if we are an eye looking at itself, a division of the whole, the idea is to be as non-conforming as possible. I will touch on this later, though. Right. Now, some practical tips for those who are still tripping out, and I can guarantee you it's pretty much all of you. I still trip out, if that's of any solace. Right. The idea of effort. Now, a few of you will have heard me sign off with my woo-moo, woo-way. I've mentioned this plenty of times, but to reiterate, this principle, it's a central pillar within the Taoist philosophy, within the Tao. Wu-wei, the Tao meaning the way, Wu-wei meaning energy follows the path of least resistance. Okay? Be like water. When it rains, water lands on the mountain, it runs. What way? How does it get back to the source, to its full ocean being? It follows the path of least resistance. Life is like this. So you have two aspects. You have the effort or effortless, right? The idea is to keep taking, if you can recognize life as a series of decisions. Remember, there only ever is a now. The future is an illusion. The past is an illusion. There only ever is a current moment. You can only ever experience a current moment right now. So, in the right now, it's about a series of decisions. And the funny thing is, it's a little bit like I'm a golfer, right? So in professional golf, it's not about how good your good shots are. It's about how you manage your bad shots, or how good your bad shots are, how little you miss. It's about refining the misses, okay? Getting rid of the big numbers off the scorecard, so to speak, right? So, effort is a funny one, because the more you try, the further it gets away from you. And this is this stupid, funny little paradox of life that we live in. It's weird like that. You need to let it come to you. It doesn't happen. You don't make it happen. It happens to you. It's a very subtle, a very slight, but distinct difference, right? And this is the law of attraction. This is how you manifest. You have to be okay without it before you can receive it. It's a very fine balance, like all things in life. It's about finding the equilibrium, the torsion point. It's about accepting, okay, say I want this potential outcome. In order to manifest this desired potential outcome, one must first acknowledge and accept the opposite potential truth, which would be the worst possible outcome. So you need to accept and acknowledge and be okay with both, happiness, being happy without, contentment, just okay, that is what is. In order to collapse the wave function in the direction of your higher desired path, you must first acknowledge and accept the worst path. And this is a really weird, tricky kind of thing to wrap your head around. It gets a bit funny, especially when it's like really deep and you're on psychedelics and an ego death. If you actually have a proper enlightenment ego death experience, you have to accept dying on the spot. Now that's scary. That's hardcore. Not everyone is ready for that. But these are the sort of things that you need to kind of work out in your mind. There's nothing to be afraid of. You chose to be here. There is no death. It's all just a battle. It's all tricks of your own mind. So it is a game of nerve, building up your balls, whatever. Balls of steel, your nerves. It is no fear. It is recognizing that there is nothing to be afraid of. Okay? I saw on a podcast the other day a really good example. Robert Edward Grant gave an example of this idea of resistance, right? And it doesn't mean you can be so well intended, but the resistance is real. So say, for example, you're an eco-warrior. You want to save the world's forests, right? Stop deforestation. So you think, all right, I'm going to go tie myself to a tree and fight these bastards. Okay, well, yes, that is admirable, if you will. But instead of fighting, instead of the resistance, why don't you go plant a tree? It's the two sides to the same coin. It is promoting the good, not fighting the bad. That is the path of least resistance, right? And it seems really silly and very simple, but it is powerful and it truly, it manifests, all right? So understanding what you think of, you materialize, you manifest in your direct experience of reality. So if you're always thinking, if you're always fighting, resisting against these whatever that is, you're going to keep experiencing it because that's what you're thinking of. So the second you stop thinking of it and start thinking of the good, the better outcome, that is when that outcome will manifest. That is how it works, right? Reality is subjective. You have to get over the idea that we all live in some objectively consensus reality, whatever. No, we don't. We all live in our own subjective experience of reality. That is how it is, all right? Now, all of these things tie into understanding what's inside and outside of our control. What's inside and outside of our control? Well, what's outside of our control? Pretty much everything, right? Boo. Yeah. So the past. Well, that's done, for starters, obviously. So holding on to things that have gone past, traumas and what have you, or negative experiences, or holding on to the good times, not thinking there's going to be any more of them. Any attachment to an abstraction that is the past is out of your control. So this is a negative attachment, and this is a distraction. The future, if you're that is what depression is. Holding on to the past, that is what depression is, right? Worrying about the future, again, another thing that's out of your control that hasn't happened yet. That's what anxiety is. So it's understanding what is in your control. Well, what is in your control? Well, not even your thoughts, only your behavior, your response to your thoughts in the present moment. So it all ties back to this idea of the present moment. And I know this is going to sound really boring because I just keep harping on and on and on about being present, about being aware. But people need to understand the power in being present and aware, okay? So be like tree. Here are some very practical sort of insights and tips on how to actually stop tripping out. Like, what can I do to stop tripping out a bit? What's physiologically happening in me to be tripping out? Well, I'll tell you, first and foremost, it's your nervous system. Guaranteed, it's your nervous system. That is where our consciousness resides. At least I think it does. I mean, your meridian system, your electromagnetic, your nervous system is more you than this, right? So how do you get your nervous system under control? There's many paths to take. Okay, so practical things. First and foremost, understanding, looking at things, the two sides of the same coin. People will look at the glass half full or glass half empty, right? So ideally, we want to shift our mindset into the glass half full. How to rid ourselves of a lot of these negative kind of cobwebs that linger in our mind is by writing. Writing can be a personal or a public thing. It doesn't matter, but it is hugely cathartic in any which way. In fact, I mean, I don't go anywhere without a pad to write on. The idea behind this is, people think to write, it has to say something, it has to mean something, it has to have structure, it doesn't. I just write down whatever comes through my mind, I just put it down on paper. I just get it out of there, you know. The idea is to just rid yourself of all the shit, because once it's down on paper, once you crystallize it into reality, then it's done. It is the most effective, at least for me personally, it is the most effective way of just transmuting negative energetic thoughts out of my system into something which I can actually use, or like, you know, I can then turn it into a positive, so to speak. So writing, definitely every day in the morning, just clear your mind. Just write everything, with good or bad. I mean, don't have to focus on the bad either. If it's good, write that stuff down as well. That's actually probably even better. But most definitely, writing helps massively. What else? Breathing techniques and meditation. And this is a weird one, and people are very hesitant to get into all weird breathing and meditation techniques. And I get it because I'm the same, but it works. Breathing, for starters. People don't know how to breathe properly. Okay, so when you're breathing, you know, people are so concerned about their image that they're scared to take a deep breath being a breath into your gut, or diaphragmatic, like down into your lower dantian. So they just do these shallow breaths into your lungs. If you're breathing properly, your shoulders don't rise. All right, ready? Feels like I'm sucking my balls up through my nose. Like, it's a very specific, right down the bottom. And you have to understand, if you understand the chakra system, up your sushumna, up your spinal energetic center, You have the 7 chakras, the 7 energetic centers. When you direct your awareness through the breath into each of these centers, it's unlocking that chakra, right? So if there are blockages in your certain energetic meridian system, by shifting awareness to them and sending breath, life force energy through them, this helps unblock them. This can be a little bit difficult to wrap your head around, but the best way, and you don't have to do it now, but if you visualize, if you close your eyes, when you're breathing in, you want to think of like a fine white mist, a plasma mist, just traveling all the way down to the base of your spine and then rising up the back and then coming back down the front. And you want to create a circuit of just energy just flowing up and through your body. Okay? So breathing and meditation are hugely important. I write here, be like tree. Be like water. Be like tree. Well, we are a tree, essentially. I mean, we are the psycho-spiritual seed. If you look at, get rid of the skin and flesh and everything, but you look at our circulatory system, it's no different to the tributaries of a river. You look at our nervous system, it is no different from the roots going into the ground and the branches branching out of a tree. Literally, right? So the idea is to ground yourself into earth and expand out up into the sun. And we've spoken about this in prior episodes. I don't want to go into it too much again. But very quickly, I've got a little diagram here. So these are the 3 types of chi. This plays on the idea of the Trinity, which we were covering in our free energy episode, right? So you have the heavenly chi, which is cosmic radiation from the sun, which comes down to us. You have earthly chi, which is the Earth's natural Schumann resonance, which is coming up from beneath us. And we basically want to use ourselves as an alkaline battery. We are a biological radio, an alkaline battery-powered biological radio, to create this tension point, this torsion point in the center. This is exactly how Nikola Tesla's free energy systems worked. So the Wardenclyffe Tower, he was amplifying the negative coming up from the Earth, drawing down the tension from the positive, the ionosphere, through toroidal geometry. He used geometry, fractal geometry, to cultivate free 0-point life force energy. That is the same principle. This works across everything. This is how magic works. This is how lightning works in nature. It's like lightning, when you see it, when it's raining, it's the exhaust fume. It is the torsion point between the negative, the ground, the earth, and the positive, the ionosphere. So when that tension gets so great, that's called the wave function collapsing. It's like that's what that is. That's what magic is. So the idea of magic, which I've discussed previously, is creating that tension point through intention and thought form, cultivating thought form. But I don't want to go into that right now. But this is very interesting, right? So ground yourself. Literally, if you want your nervous system to be calm, if you're anxious, if you're worried, if you're shaky, if you're always looking at nootropics because you can't handle your coffee or something, well, that's your nervous system's just shot, bruh. Like, you don't need all that if you just have a steady baseline. Breathing. Meditation, you can have a fucking beer and listen to music while you meditate. It doesn't have to be some gnarly thing. Work in non-zeros. The idea of non-zeros is so powerful, right? So the idea that, okay, well, that is better than what I'm doing now. And you just gradually do all these tiny little things, these little 1%ers. And you can get extreme with some, or you can get less extreme with you work out your own system, but so long as you're doing something towards the right goal and you know what is best for you, then you're doing okay. People get stuck between the 0 to 100. And I want to talk about addiction quickly. People go to a rehab, right? Because they've got a heroin addiction or a cocaine problem or this or that or whatever. And the answer that's given to them is, okay, you get rid of it. Okay? So you go from the 100 to the 0. So these people only have 0 or 100. They don't have all the in-betweens, 0 to 100. The whole idea, remember, is finding equilibrium. So if you were to conquer your demons, truly, Well, the idea is, if you have truly conquered them, then you could have that heroin or that cocaine sitting in front of you, and you can do that heroin or that cocaine in front of you and not feel the need to do it again tomorrow. That is true conquering your demons. By purely just abstaining from it, you're just running away from it. That is a shitty truth, but you have not conquered that demon. It's not an it problem, it's your relationship with the it problem. You see? Conquering it is more than just running away from it or distancing yourself from it, right? It is overcoming that addiction. It's sheer will. Love of self. I don't want to go back to that shitty frame of state of mind I was in before. But I know why did I get addicted to that thing? Well, at some point in my life, it served a purpose and it made me happy. I enjoyed it. Okay, so how do I get the balance? How can I use it to just enjoy it, not do it to escape or because I feel as if I need to or want perceived as a need, right? So these are the nuanced sort of takes on all this sort of stuff, right? Now, I mentioned, yes, we are quantum biological radios, right? So, and we're battery powered. We are alkaline battery powered. So, more practical advice on this. Drinking negative ionized water is a massive one that I do all the time, and it makes a huge difference. Like, weirdly enough, I was never a big water drinker, but drinking alkaline water really makes a difference. Just staying hydrated in general. I mean, water is a conductor of electricity. If you see yourself as a battery and manipulating energy, then you want to be as conductive and be able to contain as a capacitor as much of this life force energy ether as possible. This is what vitality is. This is what your spiritual health is. Okay? This is like, man, this is it. This is the prana, the chi, the life force energy. This is the stuff you want. This comes through your breath. This is the ether. This is what keeps us alive. This is where consciousness resides. This is what makes you smart. This is what brings on creative flow. All of these things. Yeah. It's funny. I had it's not one time. I've had it many times. People come up to me and I'm speaking about these sort of things, and they'll be like, "Okay, well, man, like you're pretty intense," and I'll be like, "Well, I'm glad you said that because I have a fun thought experiment for you. So, what does it mean to be intense? All right." So if you're watching a super gnarly horror film, like 28 Days Later or something, and it's like, and it gets all gnarly and intense, why is it intense? Because you are in tension. You tense up. So it's not me that is intense. It's you who is threatened by the ideas of me, who is incredibly relaxed. If I was any more chill, I'd be frozen. It is you being intimidated by these ideas or threatened by these ideas that has caused you to tense up, and you subconsciously projecting your intensity onto me. No, bro, you're intense. Pretty funny. Now, what else? Practically speaking, again, yeah, so these meditative techniques, stuff like Qigong and yoga, I mean, these are ancient systems of cultivating this life force energy. They are tried, tested, proven. I don't know where to find good ones, but definitely study these things. Qigong, yoga, all good. Equilibrium. Okay, so finding your guardrails. Once you start finding yourself in a more present and aware state, how do you stay there, and how do you keep refining it until you find perfect synchronicity, really? Well, it is staying aware and looking for synchronicities, right? So the synchronicities are your guardrails. Whether it be a specific time, I mean, if I check the clock, it'll be something 44 or 11:11 or so on and so forth. I mean, I just have an infinite amount of small little personal details that I'll be aware of, that I pick up in my day-to-day, just to know that I am in alignment, right? But if you're distracted, if you're looking at your phone or you're thinking about something else and you're not in the present moment, because these universal winks are so subtle, you will miss them. So until such time as you are present and aware to pick up on the synchronicities, because the universe is always talking to you because you are the universe, right? Experiencing man, not man experiencing universe. You will start to see them. And when you start to see the synchronicities, it gets exciting because you go, oh shit, it's working. Oh shit, he might actually be onto something. Oh fuck, is that guy right? Maybe. And when you start then you start following this path of high excitement, right? And then it keeps coming, and then it gets more obtuse and more crazy and more miraculous and more beautiful. And then you're starting to get into a flow state of happiness and creativity and all this weird spooky stuff, and life is magic, all right? So these are keys to happiness, guys. Like, genuinely. I mentioned earlier, conformity. So why are we here? We are it experiencing itself. The whole point of us being here is to be the most unique expression of it as we can possibly be. That is, be as you as possible. Be as woo-moo as I can be. It's like, what is the most me I can be? It sounds a bit funny, but literally, I mean, if you're wearing a uniform, if you're following trends, well, no, you're steering off course. What is you? And you don't have to know. I don't know. I still don't know. I'm still finding out, and I'm having a ball finding out. But the idea is to just be so unapologetically you, it hurts. Until it doesn't hurt. Until it gets really fun. Right? Anyway. Woo-moo? Woo-way.